All right, guys, you're gonna want to grab some popcorn for this one. This is a good one. It's been ongoing for a while. I shouldn't have tried that popcorn, but now I want to eat the whole bag. The buyer's remorse rollback. Crew cab, freightliner, Jordan bed, awesome tow truck. Drove it home last night. I can officially talk about everything now and gonna turn some light on some things that we're not gonna fully disclose in this video, but we're going to if things don't go the right way. But back up, what's buyer's remorse? Buyer's remorse is when you buy something and realize you made a mistake. You go home and your wife says, "What in the holy heck did you bring home?" and kicks you out to the doghouse. You probably should have asked. You take something home and it doesn't fit in your garage. You take something home, don't realize it gets 8 miles to the gallon instead of the truck you had that got 25 miles to the gallon. Any of those things could be examples of buyer's remorse. We see it all the time. We've seen it lots of times, especially when we sell stuff that people don't necessarily need. But this is a little unusual. This was a tow company. This truck was bought and purchased, just to be clear. We were paid 3 or 4 days before this truck even left the lot. We're paid in full, have always been paid in full. A lot of people are like, oh, they scammed you. No, we've seen scams. This was not one. We were paid in full on this truck before it left, just like always. Then it became a problem with the bank and the buyer. So a little bit of this repetitious, but for you guys that hadn't seen this yet, this is the deal. Customer got back to Colorado and decided this was too big of a truck for what they needed. They called us with some off-the-wall something. It had an ABS light. It had an ABS light when it left. It was sold completely as is, 5 as-is documents signed. The description said it had an ABS light. The description said it had a couple other issues, but the truck ran, drove, and operated. It was a local truck that had been driven and operated around here since it was brand new. It does have 400,000 miles. So anyway, they said, what are you guys going to do? I said, politely, there's not much we can do. You know, you guys are in wherever. I didn't know Colorado at the time. But there's not much we can do. If you would like us to take a look, we will, but I'm not going to promise you anything, but we could surely look. That's common courtesy, you know. We knew right off the bat they didn't know much about towing because they didn't know how to operate the PTO, they didn't know how to operate the bid, they didn't know how to use the controls. It was a cluster F, if you know what I mean. So that was about it. You know, what about if we send an invoice? Will you pay it? No, we're not paying an invoice. But we will look at the truck. If you've got something, and again, there was a little communication barrier because the guy that bought the truck had a woman speaking for him all the time. So there was a communication barrier. So lo and behold, 2 or 3 days later, across the street, the truck shows up. They hand one of my guys all the paperwork and they leave. So a day later, I see the truck. I asked my guys, I said, what's the truck here for? I don't know. Guy walked in, gave us this paperwork. He hands me the paperwork. It's the bill of sale, the paperwork, the as-is documents. It's everything. Okay, that's pretty strange. Whatever. We just let it be. A couple, 3 days later, we get a call from a bank. And it's on speakerphone. And it's basically, let's call them a liaison of the bank. And the bank says, the banker guy says, we're just looking to see when our money's going to come back for that truck. Let's get over here so it's not so noisy. As you can see, still got construction going on. The guy says, when are we going to get our money back for that truck deal? I'm blown away. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm lost. He says, the freightliner deal with such and such towing company, they returned it to you. And they said from Colorado. I still didn't put 2 and 2 together. Finally, they told me enough information. I pulled the folder. I figured out it was this truck. I said, call me back. So they called me back. Speakerphone again. The guy said, I'm not sure what you're looking up or trying to figure out, but we're just looking to see when our money's coming back. I said, sir, I'm very lost here. The truck is in my parking lot. It was sold as is. Oh, it had lots of problems. So they returned it. I said, sir, we're not Walmart. We don't have a return policy. Then over top of that voice comes another voice. Sir, do you not realize who you're speaking to? I said, no, sir, I don't. Do you realize who you're speaking to? He caught me way off guard. It was a rude, super dick voice. And I said, who am I speaking with, sir? He said, I'm the president of this branch. And do you not want future business? I said, sir, I don't know how you got this business in the first place. We sell trucks. Customers pay us. That's it. This was an unfortunate case. It was a truck that was as is, was less expensive, and now I'm putting all this together. It made its way to Colorado and back? Well, I just don't know what we're going to do to resolve this. Now, I'll back up just one step. One of the conversations I had with the lady was, this truck's too big. That's not my fault that you bought this truck, the biggest truck that you could buy that I sell. Crew cab, 22-foot bed, everything. We'd like a 550 or a 5500. Okay, I understand, and we could do some trading, but everything I have is more expensive as far as those go. So there's the real complete answer to the question. They bought the wrong truck. They bought a truck that's too big. So anyway, banker says, what are we going to do? I said, look, I gave them an option. I said, one, we're happy to check the truck. But the truck made its way to Colorado and back. It's not so bad. And it was as is. So I forwarded him all the documents. Boom, 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 boom. Everything perfect. Paperwork perfect. Documents perfect. As is forms times 5. Everything. Even the listing of the vehicle saying it had problems. I offered them an option for a trade. They can't do that. They want their money back. I'm like, well, that's the option. The guy says, again, I don't think you realize who you're speaking to. I said, sir, I really don't care who I'm speaking to. It could be the president. You're not going to speak to me that way. This conversation's over. I hung up. I never do that. But I was furious. I was beyond furious at the whole scenario. And why are you going to talk to me condescending like that on top of it? I have no clue. Come to find out, that bank was a broker that brokered it to a bigger bank. That bank didn't even have the money to do the deal. They just did the paperwork for another bank. So lo and behold, a week goes by. I don't hear anything. This liaison reaches back out. Hey, we're still trying to work this situation out. Like, I don't know what you're trying to work out, but I think we've done all the options. Well, is the trade still an option? Oh, now you want to come back to our level of reality that I am bending over backwards. I said, before we do that, let me see this 40-page list of problems this truck has. Well, that's the thing. Y'all said it had a DOT inspection, and that's a list of DOT problems. I said, first off, we've never DOT'd a vehicle ever. We do not DOT inspect vehicles. We allow the customer to do it because it has to be in the customer's name. We Virginia inspected the truck. Here's the sheet from the shop. Here's the phone number to call the shop. I'll get back to you. So now he's playing nice guy. He called back again to ask for something else. And I said, sir, I know you're just a middleman here. I said, but your boss is what has really ruffled my feathers. He said, he has apologized. I said, no, I haven't heard an apology. I said, but he came off extremely wrong. And I said, you may not understand. He could have had my mother on the phone. And if that conversation would have happened with my mother, I would have come to y'all's location in person and taken care of this. Because you don't talk to anybody that way when they've done nothing wrong and pout that I'm a manager of a bank. I don't give two absolute craps who you are. We did nothing wrong, and we're trying to help the customer. So let's grab the sheet, because here's where we're gonna go to part 2. I'm not gonna clip the video, but this company right here has been sent, well, this company's information has been sent to a federal level for fraudulent doings. Because I'm not playing any longer. We're good. I'm gonna tell you what happened with this deal. We're good as a goose. But this was some bullcrap. And this was another party involved because they never thought they were gonna bring this truck back. They thought they were just gonna fluff all this crap and get a check. Doesn't work that way. We weren't born yesterday. So, it's not gonna zoom in good enough, but I've had 2 different people go over this. First off, they said something about emissions components, some were missing. No emission components are missing. The truck has all of its components. It had all of its components when I got it. What a lot of people don't realize, we bring a vehicle into inventory, we go over those things to make sure, and we photograph them and we video them. So we not only have our pictures on our website, we also have where we did our check-in process of this vehicle. Because if this vehicle ends up with this cracked, and I didn't buy it that way, AJ, myself, Christian, Mike, David, somebody caused that problem. I'm not gonna be mad, but I wanna figure out who crashed it. So we do a lot of documentation. So we'll start off with that. Driver's marker light inoperable. It had one cab light out. Cab marker light inoperable. That was a loose connection. Took care of that. Passenger head marker light inoperable, rear marker light inoperable, driver's headlight inoperable, passenger rear work light inoperable, marker lights on flash bar inoperable. No issues noted. There were no problems. Deck lights inoperable. One had a broken bracket and it was bent over. It did work, but it was bent. Backup alarm, needed alarm. Again, that's a DOT thing. Fuel tank loose, it was not. If you don't see anything written, driver's side step bracket bent. Yep, it's 400,000 mile truck, and you are correct. It's bent right here. Yep, you're right. It is bent. Passenger wheel seal was not leaking. Oh, here's a good one. Tie rod. We asked them which tie rod because we couldn't find a problem. The tie rod they said was a tie rod we had already put on it, and we have an invoice 3 weeks prior to selling it for doing that repair at a third-party shop. Air filter was dirty. The air filter's brand new, also on a receipt. Here's a good one. The fuel filter water separator was crushed. Crushed. Oh boy. Multiple oil leaks. This truck's been sitting here and running, and I drove it in this morning. Actually, I'll take a knee myself, AJ. Look underneath this 400,000 mile Cummins that has not been power washed. 400,000 miles. It should be leaking like the Valdez. It is not. And on top of those emission components, it even has a replacement EGR valve, not too terribly long ago. Not leaking at all. Not even a little bit. Crazy. The power mirrors don't work. Now this was a list they said was for DOT now. Some of this I understand is, some of it isn't. The power mirrors do not work. It doesn't have power mirrors. ABS light is on. It was on the day we sold it. It was on the day we bought it. And it was in the description that it was on. The windshield wiper fluid was low. There were no triangles. The triangles were in the rear box. We include triangles with every vehicle. AJ behind the camera makes sure they're in every vehicle. They were in the rear box. They didn't even open the box. And The transmission does flare when accelerating hard, and that was also the thing that is in the description. If you run this truck hard, the transmission will flare. If you drive it normal, which is what I did going home, no problems whatsoever. They didn't even have the transmission on the list. I added that at the bottom. They also went 3,200 miles and came back. So, this is the fun stuff we deal with in business. So, another week goes by, and we brought you guys a few updates. You've seen this truck. It's been sitting down at our service shop. Checked over by 2 different people at 2 different shops just to make sure, because I said, you know, this might end up in a lawsuit somewhere. We know we're good. I'm not worried about it. I had all the text conversations. I had all the emails. I have all the documents. I have all of everything. So I want to make sure our butt was good, and it was. There was no problems. Original banker calls. He says, hey, this is out of our hands now. You'll have to deal with this other bank. Cool enough, the other bank is a bank we deal with all the time. But it wasn't the banker we deal with that called. Another liaison that's job is just to figure things like this out, because I get it. There's unscrupulous people out there that do crappy business. This is not one of them. But they bought a cheaper truck. They bought the wrong truck. They had buyer's remorse. Liaison reaches out. We're just seeing when we're going to be refunded for the truck that was returned. I said, sir, I don't know where you're coming in on this conversation. I said, I can run you back on some email chains. I said, but you're the second person, the second banker that's asked that question, and we did not return a truck. Well, I was told the customer came in, left the truck, and left the paperwork. He sure did. And why did you not return it? Because I don't have a return policy, because we didn't do anything wrong, and because it was an as-is truck, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. He says, I'll call you back. An hour later, he calls me back. I guess he shuffled through some paperwork. He said, we're just really looking for a return of our money. I said, well, you're really looking in the wrong place. You need to look at your customer, not me. We're not getting paid. The customer hasn't made any payments. You've been paid. Yes, sir. I sold a vehicle. I got paid. That's what we do every day, all day, and have been for 48 years. We don't understand why it's so hard just to return the money. Do you not realize who you're talking to? Said the same line. Click. I hung up. Again, on a different person at a different bank. He calls back. I think we got disconnected. Yes, sir, we got disconnected. I disconnected you. I'm not sure who you think that you're going to talk to that way. I said, but you can talk to our lawyers. You can talk to your customer. We're done. Well, what about the deal about them trading? We're done. Conversation's done. Done. Well, I'm going to run this to higher up. No problem. A couple days later, another person calls from another branch, but at the same bank. What he didn't know is we had called our rep in the meantime and said, hey, how many deals have we done? He said, hundreds. Have you ever had a problem? Nope, you guys are great. Why do you ask? Well, let me just fill you in on something that's taken place. Now, it wasn't his deal. He didn't know anything about it, but he researched it. He went way up high, but didn't get an answer. So when this other call came back in, I put him in my voicemail. I called him back. I said, you ever get anywhere? He said, no, but I'm going to right now. So he gets on the phone. He gets me pushing through. I'll hit you right back. He said, JW, don't respond to those people. I don't know why they're threatening you. You've gone beyond what you should have done, and then some, which we knew you would. I don't understand where all this is coming from. A couple more days go by. Another person reaches out from the original bank that actually held the loan, that did the whole deal, that did everything. Would you still be willing to do a trade deal to make this situation better? I said, you know what? I will. because we're a good dealership, because I'm a good guy, because my 70-plus-year-old mom does the paperwork, she wants it resolved when there's nothing really to resolve. And if we don't resolve it, I'm just going to tell the shop to keep the truck that's sitting in their parking lot and get an abandoned title, because I'm tired of dealing with it. But if they want to get the truck they should have bought the first time, they can get it. It's going to cost them. They got to pay the difference. They got to pay the fees. It's going to be as is. I'm not going to allow them to get home and say they should have bought blue instead of red. This is it. We'll be right on it, Mr. Davis. We'll be right on it. I said on top of it, the bank that's in the middle here is going to be reprimanded. Oh, you know they will. I said, no. If they're not reprimanded, I'm going to blast it across our channels. And I hate to do that. But we have, across all of our platforms, 1 million viewers. And they tune in and they watch. And if I have to do it, I'm going to do it. Because it was wrong, it was rude, it was disrespectful, and it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened to me. It shouldn't have happened to anybody that did nothing wrong. And I said for it to happen twice, it's just ridiculous. And I said on top of it, this bullcrap report here that was trying to extort money over unhonest stuff, unethical stuff, is going to also, because DOT is on a federal level. We don't DOT. I'm not saying that there wouldn't have been something there for DOT, but there was nothing on this list that was proper other than a couple light bulbs that did probably shake loose in 3,000 miles. Okay. We'll take care of it. We held our end of the bargain. Yesterday, the people left in an F-550, headed back to Colorado in a truck they should have bought the first time. What's up, buddy? How you doing? And that's pretty much the end of the story, guys. They paid the difference. The bank paid the difference. We got our title back to this truck. They got their title to the other truck. They paid for a little bit more expensive truck. They bought the right truck this time. They headed back home. I know that's a long saga. I know that's a long story. It's crazy the things we deal with in business. It's crazy the way people try to back people in corners. It's crazy the way things can go fraudulent so fast. It's just insane. Every shop that I deal with knows we bend over backwards. The shop that this ended up with was furious at the situation because it was sitting in their parking lot. I didn't want it here. It wasn't my truck. And for two, they had already known that the truck was right. People are human. We can miss things. But we didn't. Everything was the way it was supposed to be. Now somebody's going to buy this truck. In the meantime, I'm going to drive it because I need to move around tons and tons and tons of stuff over the holiday. And I'm going to drive and use this truck. I'm going to put my kids in it, and it's a crew cab, and I'm going to use it for what it should have been used for. Just like the ad says, this would be a perfect backup truck. It was their only truck, their first truck, not a backup truck, not a little truck. I think they're in a city or something. They bought the wrong truck. That's what buyer's remorse is about. That's the update. A couple bankers are going to get on blast here pretty soon if they're not reprimanded. And I hate that, but you guys can say in the comments if you think I'm wrong, but you don't do that. You don't come off. That conversation is 100% the way it went. These people do not know us, do not know me. I don't know them. That is exactly within 5 seconds of how that conversation went. That is the craziest stuff I've ever seen. The first banker researched, and the little liaison said, my boss had no idea y'all were as large as you were and had been in business as long as you had and had sold as many vehicles as you had. I said, sir, that's nice he figured that out after the fact, but it shouldn't matter. If I was on my first day of work selling my first car, it shouldn't matter if I did everything right. But you know, he did poke a sleeping bear that has been in business for 48 years, has sold over 20,000 vehicles all over the world, and it didn't start yesterday. I knew when I was right, I know when I'm wrong, and this was a completely right, by the book situation. That's what made it a bad scenario. That's what took this customer 6 extra weeks to get a vehicle when they could have had it the next day. if you guys would have cooperated and your boss would have kept his mouth closed, but that didn't happen. So anyway, you let me know, right or wrong, what you guys think about this. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, we're gonna relax. I'm gonna let all this stress that I carry off my shoulders, and we're gonna go into the new year fresh and clean. I'm gonna finish eating my popcorn, and hope you guys have a good rest of the day.